Hello, everyone. So the central purpose of my paper was to discover the extent to which the COVID-19 pandemic had detrimental mental health effects on individuals with pre-existing mental health disorders. Given what I had been reading in the news and on social media, I assumed that the literature would find that COVID-19 and all of its associated public health measures like lockdown would have had an overwhelmingly negative effect on individuals with pre-existing mental health conditions. However, this was actually not the case. The literature was quite mixed on the topic, with various studies finding significant, moderate, or little to no detrimental impacts. Studies indicating significant effects typically found that social isolation and disrupted access to mental health supports and services exacerbated mental health needs. Studies that showed moderate effects tended to argue that individuals with mental health challenges were quite resilient throughout the pandemic because they were already used to isolation and adversity, and also because they had pre-established coping mechanisms. Studies that found little to no negative effects were by far the most surprising. They actually found that the pandemic had improved mental health in many instances. This improvement was attributed to less time spent alone. The mixture of results can partly be explained by the study type, the nature of comparisons being drawn, and also the jurisdiction in which the study was conducted. For the purpose of this presentation, we're going to focus on jurisdiction. Canadian data consistently found significant mental health effects of COVID-19. This finding is consistent with pre-COVID data by the Mental Health Association that found 1.6 million Canadians report unmet mental health care needs each year. In this way, Canada's mental health care system was unable to meet mental health demands before the pandemic even began. Another prominent theme that emerged from the results of this research was that access to mental health supports and services is imperative to mental health management. The evidence clearly showed that those that receive support fare better than those that do not. For instance, those who were most negatively affected were isolated, while those whose mental health improved spent more time with family or those living within their households. Although the various studies come to very different conclusions about the effects of COVID-19 on mental health, the implication that supports are necessary to mental well-being is the same. And an important question for policymakers is what options are available to improve the access and quality of mental health supports both during and after the pandemic. Given the significance of mental health supports and services found in this paper, finding innovative ways to address Canadians' mental health care needs is critical. It is also worth noting that most mental health care services have shifted online during COVID-19, and the pandemic represents an unprecedented opportunity to explore whether e-health or telehealth services can improve the access and quality of mental health supports even after life returns to some form of normality. Ultimately, future research on the effectiveness of e-health, as well as research on the effects of COVID-19 on mental health generally, is required, as Canadian data specifically is very much limited. And that is all for me. Thank you for listening.